to another screencast. This one is on inequalities. It's the third of the inequalities screencast. It's on solving inequalities. Now, I could easily replace that with solving equations because it's just like solving equations. And that's the skills that we're going to need to know to work through this. So if you haven't watched the videos on one-step and two-step equations, please go back and watch them now. And also, if you haven't watched the earlier videos on inequalities, then it'd definitely be worth a watch of those. So what are inequalities? We've done this before. An inequality is a relation that connects two numbers. It is normally used to compare two numbers on a number line. That's what we normally do. But it can also be used like this. And the difference is they look differently, and we take a little bit of time to get them down to the point that we would be used to looking at a number line. Here's an example of that, and as I mentioned before, it looks very similar to an equation. So I could write an equation out of this, and the only difference you might notice is rather than saying this symbol, which is 2x plus 5, is smaller than 13, I've written it as 2x plus 5 equals 13. And if I wanted to work that out, then you hopefully know what to do. Well, today, barring one exception, that's exactly what we're going to do. And I'll get to the exception later. But for now, we're just going to think of them as an equation. But first of all, what are the signs? When I give examples, I'm going to give whole numbers. The reason for that is because I want to make it as simple as possible for you to remember, the information. So greater than, x is greater than 8. So that means that x must be 9 or more. Okay? Greater than or equal to means that 8 would be, sorry, not 8, x would be 8 or more, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Whole numbers, remember. X is smaller than 8, so it's definitely going to be 7 or less. Okay, and last but not least, x is smaller than or equal to 8, which means it could be 8, 7, 6 or less. Okay, hopefully that makes a lot of sense. If it doesn't, then I apologize. You might need to go back and watch those videos as mentioned before. So let's have a look at some basic questions now. So as I said before, I don't want you to sort of take away that smaller than symbol and replace with an equals, but I want you to treat it exactly the same. So I'll do the first one with you. So first up, I'm just going to minus 2 off both sides, which will leave me with x not equals, x is smaller than 10. Okay, so next thing I would do, hopefully you'll know, I would divide both sides by 2, and I'll be left with x is smaller than 5. And that really is how simple it is. Now you'll notice in the question we have smaller than, and in our answer we still have smaller than. That's really important, and we're going to do that throughout, apart from one exception to the rule. And I'll teach you how to sort of spot when to use that exception. Just checking the answer there, yes, x is smaller than 5. Next up, let's look at another basic question. This time I'd like you to pause the video, give it a go, come back and see if you've got it correct. All right, so hopefully you've had some time to do that. First thing we're going to do is plus 3 to both sides. Then I rewrite. I've got 2x is smaller than 8. Up next is to divide both sides by 2. And we end up with x is smaller than 4. Hopefully you got that one correct. And we can see there that although it's not written very well, my answer is correct. And we can move on now. Again, pause the video, give it a go. Now you'll notice that this question is exactly the same as the last one, apart from one difference. So I want to see if you can spot that difference and see if you can add that to your answer. All right, so again, we're going to add 3 to both sides. And we're going to end up with 2x is smaller than or equal to 8. Divide both sides by 2. So my answer would be x is smaller than or equal to 4. Hopefully you've got that one correct also. All right, so let's have a look at some of these questions of how they make it harder. So one way they make it harder is they might use brackets, and you might have to use BODMAS or BIDMAS to work that through for a start. So hopefully you can already do that. and you can pause the video now and go through with it. If you can't do that, and only if you can't, don't be that guy or that girl who can but can't be bothered. I would like you to pause the video and do that now. Right, so first things first, 3 times x gives us 3x. 3 times 2 gives me plus 6. And we know that that is going to be greater than 18. We would take away 6 from both sides, and we'd end up with 3x is greater than 12. A little pause there, my brain working. Divide by 3 and divide by 3. And hopefully you got, like I've got, x is greater than 4. All right? And it really is as easy as that. Now, what about this one? What do you do now? All right? Give it a go, come back and see if you've got it correct. First things first, we're going to take away 5 from both sides. And we're going to rewrite x over 2 is smaller than or equal to 5 times both sides by 2. Now we've got x is smaller than or equal to 10. And, you know, just like I do with other equations, we could put that 10, the 10 here, back into our equation, and we could see 10 divided by 2 gives us 5. 5 plus 5 gives us 10. And we could say that, you know, we could say that, couldn't we, that because it's equal to 10, then we would say that that would be correct. And let's go now. Now this is the exception to the rule. So far what we've done is we've kept the symbol the same. Okay. Now on this one, I'm going to go through each step by step, but I'm going to explain why we would change that at the end. But let's just go through step by step for a start. Maybe you could pause the video, give this a go first, see how you've done, and then you'll really spot the difference between what you have maybe done and what you should do. So pause the video now, give it a go, and then come back and see if you've got it correct. Okay, first things first, we're going to take away 15 from both sides. Now, you might have noticed also that some would say it's written in a funny order. We normally have the x's first. Well, this is how they make it a little bit harder for you. So be prepared for all of these things to happen. But we'd be left with minus 2x is smaller than 10. Now, what would we normally do? We'd normally divide by minus 2 and divide by minus 2, and we'd end up with x. And this is where we're going to have our answer. We're not going to have our answer as smaller than. We're going to change it to greater than, and our answer would be minus 5. Now, there's a reason for that. I'm going to explain it over here. So let's just take two numbers that we know work well together and we know the answer to it. So we've got 2 is smaller than 5, and we'd all agree that 2 is smaller than 5. What I'm going to do is I'm going to times both of these sides by a negative number. So let's just pick a nice negative number. So that's going to be minus 2. So I'm going to times both sides by minus 2. So we've got 2 times minus 2 is minus 4. And we're going to keep the symbol as it is. And then we're going to go 5 times minus 2 is minus 10. Now, as it's written, minus 4 is smaller than minus 10. Well, we know that's incorrect. We know that minus 10 is actually smaller than minus 4. And that's the reason why we change around the symbols. So whenever we're dividing or timesing by a negative number, it's really important that at the end and only at the end, we flip around those symbols to make sure that it's facing in the other direction, if you want to think about it like that. All right, everyone, it is time for the bit that you have been looking forward to all day, all night, all weekend, or whatever it's been. It's time for the quiz. Pause the video now, give it a go, and then see if you've got them correct. All right, here we go. Answers coming up. So the first one's nice and easy. We take away 10 from both sides. We then divide it by 2 to give us x is smaller than 9. The next one, we add 10 to both sides to give us x over 5 is greater than or equal to 50 times by both sides by 5, and x is greater than or equal to 250. Now, you may have got that and thought, wow, that's a massive answer. That's not what we've been doing. But it is correct. Follow your gut. Of course, check. But we can put that back in. Remember, we can put that 250 back into the equation and we can see if it does work, and it does work. So that's absolutely fantastic. Now, the next one, I'm going to go step by step. So first up, we subtracted 10 from both sides, and then we rewrote. Minus 3x is smaller than 30. And then we're going to divide both sides by minus 3. Which gives us x is greater than minus 10. And you'll notice that I flipped around the symbol from smaller than to greater than here. And hopefully you'll remember the reason why, because we're dividing or timesing by a negative number. But that is it, everyone. It's time for a revision card. Please write a revision card if you've got time. If you don't have time, make time. Do it tomorrow or whenever. It's really important because it will help to keep all that information fresh in your brain, and that's what it's all about. We want to get you to the test, and we want you to do fantastically well. As always, it's been a pleasure helping with your maths today. Hopefully every day you get a little bit better, and it's important that you do a bit every day because little bits add up to big bits. Until next time.